talk about recoil management and improving your overall control with your weapon. Now, there's a number of different ways we can go about this, but I have been most successful in addressing the low-hanging fruit first before I get into the greater specifics of grip and grip pressure. So what's the low-hanging fruit? Well, we just need to look at where is the weakest link of the whole equation. And the weakest link is your wrist. So you can see, regardless of how much grip or grip pressure I apply to that gun, if the wrist fails, the whole system fails. So let's try a different experiment. Now let's do a test to determine how much locking the wrist out actually improves your ability to control the gun. And to do that, I'm going to sacrifice a couple things. The first thing I'm going to sacrifice is a proper master grip. Proper master grip being as high up on this beaver tail as I can be, between my thumb and my index finger, and I'm going to bring the gun down to where I have a low purchase, which creates an added fulcrum. We don't want that. And I'm going to import a teacup grip. So I'll put some grip pressure on the gun, but I'm going to lock my wrist out. I'm going to put a little bit of grip pressure. I understand that I have a bad master grip, and then I'll go ahead and shoot it with a teacup style support hand. So let's see what that looks like. Looking at this second example, now I had a reasonable amount of control over that weapon. Even though I had a horrible master grip, my support hand wasn't really helping me at all. By putting a little bit of grip pressure on the gun itself and locking my wrist out, I was able to get a high degree of control over that weapon when comparing it to the first example. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into setting up your overall grip. So, as discussed before, we want to be high on this beaver tail. We don't want to create any type of fulcrum back there. And we're going to identify all this space that's left open. Well, that's a perfect space for my support hand. So now my support hand will fit in this space. I'll bring it back as far as I can. I'll collapse my fingers around it. And now the only missing variable is how am I going to apply grip pressure utilizing this grip? When we're talking about grip pressure, there's a number of successful methods on how to apply that pressure. I personally like to wring out the towel. Other people like to put a lot of pressure up top, pressure down below, what percentage they're incorporating with their support hand versus their primary hand. And I think the best way to explain that is you test it out. You put the appropriate input on the gun that is necessary to control the recoil. You have a basis to kind of play with that now. Ideally, what we're looking for when we draw and shoot that gun is that we have very little muscle that the gun stays fairly flat. So I was at sight picture through that entire string of fire, and that really tells us that we're managing the recoil effectively.